Today we're going to be looking at inductive reasoning. We use inductive reasoning to look at patterns and come up with conclusions. Conjectures are statements that are based on observations. A lot of people want to say that inductive reasoning is common sense. So looking at this pattern, I can notice that my pattern, the dot, is moving just around the circle. So my next dot visually should be right here in this quadrant. For this one, my dots are moving along the sides of it, so my next two dots would be in the top corner. We can look at numbers as patterns as well to determine what is going on and look at the sequence. Like, for example, to get from 2 to 8, you could add 6, but from 8 to 32, you can't add 6. Now, if you multiply by 4 every time, then it works. So to get this next number here, I could add or multiply and get 512. And then here I would get 2048. And excuse my writing. And then the last one, I believe you get 8,192 if I'm not mistaken. Now, so every time you go up, you're multiplying by 4. Okay. Now, for this next one, an example number 2, we're adding 4 every single time. So it's an addition of 4. Sorry, that's a little bit sloppy. So this next one would be 17. Here you would get 21, and this last one you would get 25. Okay, we make conjectures all the time. If I wanted to make a statement, the product of any two odd numbers is, and that's what I'm trying to find out. So I could set it up, a bunch of odd numbers multiplied, like for example 1 and 5 give me 5, 3 and 7 21, 5 and 3 15, 5 and 9 gave me 45. Well, every time I multiplied odd numbers, I got an odd number. So I made the statement, the product of any two odd numbers is odd. And then I tested it. So 17, 19 both odd, 323 odd. So there's a check mark. 23 and 31 odd, so that means 713 is odd. So since both of those work, that means this statement would be true. You could do it for even numbers as well. So if we come over here and come up with some even numbers, for example, excuse me, let's move that back. And sorry, it's not letting me add anything. You could do 2, 4, 6, 8 and multiply those, and every time you multiply those you're gonna get an even number. So our conjecture, instead of two odd numbers is odd, the product of two even numbers is going to be odd. Or excuse me, even. Okay, so let's go on to the next one, which is talking about conditional statements. Conditional statements are basically just logical statements. They have an if and they have a then. If-then statements, after the word if is your hypothesis, after your word then is your conclusion. When you negate something, you're stating the opposite of the original statement. Converse is just moving it back and forth. The hypothesis and the conclusion is swapped. Inverse, you negate your hypothesis and conclusion. Contrapositive, you negate it and you switch your hypothesis and conclusion. Equivalent statements are when both statements are true. Biconditionals are when both have a statement that have if and only if. So for example here, two sharks have a bone, or sorry, all sharks have a boneless skeleton. I'm going to highlight a particular word here because the word have is my verb. Anything after the word, after your verb, is your conclusion. Everything before it is your hypothesis. Here you have if. So everything after if is my hypothesis. Everything before it was my conclusion. Now when we do these, I want you guys to look at my original sentence that I have down here. And that is, and I understand that this is misspelled, so let me go back in here and fix this. So there's that one, and up here we're going to move this one into this spot. Basketball players are athletes. The hypothesis is everything before the word are, conclusion, everything after it. The if-then form is just if you're a basketball player, excuse me. Let's swap these around. If you're a basketball player, then you are an athlete. That's my hypothesis and conclusion in if-then form. Okay, converse. Converse is, going back up here to the definition, you just switch it. So if you are a athlete, then you are a basketball player. So those are just swapped. Okay, inverse. I negate my original hypothesis. So let's come down here and move my original back. And then we're going to change this to if you are not a basketball player, then you are not an athlete. So you're just adding the word not to your hypothesis and conclusion. Contrapositive is it's negated and it's swapped. So my hypothesis is going to go at the end again, and my conclusion goes at the beginning. So those are your 4 relative and related conditional statements. And everything is always written in if-then form. You're just moving the words that are after the word if and after the word then. I hope that helps you with conditional statements.